recording.
All right. Call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag's behind us there. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First item of business is the approval of the minutes from the board meeting January 11th. Anybody have any corrections that need to be made? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the minutes of January 11th. Signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is the approval of the general fund vouchers 78,334 through 78,419 and wire transfers 2021-0300 through 2021-0341.
I move to approve the vouchers and transfers.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the general fund vouchers and wire transfers as read. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is the public comments on agenda items. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to share? Doesn't look like it. So then we'll move on to our next item of business, which is the Spotlight on Education.
Okay, so for today we got Spotlight of Education. The CTE crew has come in and it's they'd like to share a little bit about this week. So I'll turn over to you guys.
I don't know where to stand, but
Sorry, it's kind of a circle.
yeah, turn. Yeah. So just wanted to say thank you for letting us come into the school board meeting. We made you all a little poster about our CTE organizations that we have. If you'd like to hang it in the border, great. If you want to throw it away, also great. But we just wanted to come in. It is February is Career and Technical Education Month. We just wanted to say thank you so much for your support of our programs. We get the joy of teaching real life skills, and that's really fun. I know Mrs. Hunter and I get to talk about how fun it is to bring real life into the classroom. And yes, math is important, yes, reading is important, and we use all of those things, but knowing how to cook things, knowing where your food comes from, all of those are important as well. So we really enjoy getting to do that. You're the president, so I'm going to gift that to you, so I don't have to add to it. Just a couple of things as an update from the Ag Ed department and FFA. We have some really, really fun things happening, and my room is always a mess, so if you ever come and visit, I'm sorry in advance, but it's a flurry of activity and some cool things that we've been able to do this year. And I actually got the joy of having Dr. Ernst come down and help us take care of our turkeys. So the last time I was at the board meeting, I was talking about these turkeys, and I had this grand plan that we were going to butcher them. And then school shut down in November, and I was like, well, there goes that idea. Well, we had all the kids come back in December, and that first week we actually went ahead and did a butchering process. And then the next Monday, I brought in a smoker with Mr. Larson, and we smoked one of them, and they got to actually taste the turkey that they had grown in class from. So we just went right from farm to table with them, which was very cool. They had an awesome time. They were a little unsure at the beginning. We weren't entirely sure how it was going to work, but it went really awesome, and I think Dr. Ernst thought it was kind of cool too, so also weird, but
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I think I mentioned it during last meeting. It was quite the experience, but it was really neat process. I was expecting it to be more traumatic, to be honest, but it was a very neat experience.
There were no turkeys running around the ag shop.
Yeah.
It was very calm.
Yeah.
Some other things, in partnership with the Tech Ed department, we actually were able to purchase 2 plasma cutters they're a CNC, so they're run by computers, so our students will learn the software, and then they will actually get to run the plasma cutters using that software. Sorry guys, I'm trying to be really good. But they will get to learn the software, and then they will run the plasma cutters. So we are hoping by the March meeting we might actually be able to take you down there and show you them. We're kind of figuring out the bugs right now. We've got some issues with getting it to cut very smooth, but every time we run it, it works a little bit better, and we figure out how the software is working a little bit more. So I shouldn't say we, Mr. Larson's really in charge of all of that, but we are having a lot of fun with it. The last thing that we've got going on in the Ag Ed department anyway is our greenhouse. We actually purchased back in December a hydroponic system. It's about as tall as I am and about 4 feet in diameter, and it will actually grow lettuce for us and some herbs. So we're gonna get that started with my greenhouse class this semester, and we'll be able to grow lettuce and put that right into the school lunch program. So we're very excited about that. Hopefully getting that off the ground next week. So, and do you want to come up? Sorry, Hunter had to come from practice, so he's joining me a little bit late, but he's going to talk a little bit about what we've had going on this year in FFA. For America.
Okay.
Fundraising.
So this year for Food for America, instead of traveling to another farm like we usually do, we had to go to the elementary, and we had students bring animals there, and we set up pens. That way, you know, the kids wouldn't have to go on the buses, so it was more COVID friendly. And we had them had students or FFA members bring animals over, and we talked to them about the animals and how and where we get our food from. And it was a really fun time, and it went really well. And then for our fruit sales this year, we had to do an online order instead of on paper. And what was it, 16,000?
About 16,000.
Yeah, we raised about $16,000 in fruit sales, and that went really well with the online.
Hopefully we get that next year.
Yeah.
Oh, membership numbers.
Oh, and then this year we're actually about 70 members, and that's up from about 50 last year. So we're up about 20 members in our chapter.
That's fantastic. And I know I mentioned it at one of the previous meetings, but the Food for America one, I mean, it was fantastic. It was really a wonderful experience. We were all hesitant of what we could do, and with all the different restrictions, and a huge thank you to the Wood family for all they donated. But then the high school kids just did a wonderful job interacting with the little ones that we have at the elementary, and it really ended up being a huge success. And thank you to Ms. Watson for putting it all together. So
It was all done. That was not. Perfect. Thank you.
Very good.
So I am actually here for FFA and FCCLA both. For FFA, I'm the Vice President of Public Relations. So I'll go ahead and talk a little about our community service that we've done this year. So back in the fall, we made signs thanking our office staff. Just to give them a little treat, we gave them some gum just to thank them for all of their extra things they've been having to go through this year. Then recently we've been getting donations of fleece to make blankets for the homeless. So we're going to be purchasing a little bit more fleece and then donating those to local homeless shelters. And then for SCCLA, I'm the president. This year we have not been able to do nearly as much stuff as we usually would be able to do. Currently right now we would actually be getting ready for our regional star event competitions. This year they were all virtual, and we chose not to do them as a chapter just because of all of the restrictions, and half the fun of it is getting on a bus and riding over to the Stout campus together. Also, we didn't really have a need to spend a bunch of money this year as a club since we were unable to have a lot of our activities. We weren't allowed to have food or snacks at any of our meetings. So we haven't been doing any fundraising. Usually we do like popcorn sales. Then we ran into some troubles with selling candy canes around Christmas time and crush sales around Valentine's Day. So we've decided to cancel all of that. We've had a really hard time finding volunteer opportunities this year with bell ringing. Usually we hand bake cookies and donate them to nursing homes, so we haven't been able to do any of that. We've also just had a really hard time being able to plan any events with all of the pre-planning. It's just a lot of work only for the event to get canceled or postponed another month. So we've really just had a disappointing school year for FCCLA. Unfortunately for me, there's not next year since I'm a senior, but hopefully the impact of COVID on all of our school clubs won't impact our number and member amounts for the future. But this week is FCCLA week, so we've been doing the best we can with doing different activities to kind of brighten our FCCLA members' week. So Mrs. Hunter will talk about the activities that we've been able to plan.
Yes, on a brighter note, happy FCCLA week. I'm sure you all knew that already in advance. The kids have been trying really hard to make the best out of the situation. We are a very hands-on club. We like to volunteer. We like to eat a lot, apparently. And so it is a little bit disappointing for the students, but they have been making little goodie bags and to-go treats when possible. So around Christmas time, they had a hot cocoa kit that they were able to take home and make at home. So for FCCLA week, the first thing that we did to kick off the week today was our Membership Monday, and all of the students who are active members wore their FCCLA t-shirts to kind of just kick off the week and show their pride in their FCCLA clothing. So we do have some pictures that we posted on our FCCLA Facebook page to spread the word and kind of spread a little positivity. Our goal for this week is kindness, positivity, laughter, and just uplifting. So Tuesday and Thursday will be our trivia days, and the members will get an email that's FCCLA trivia related, and the quickest responses that are most correct will get some prizes at our meeting on Friday. We also are going to do a Wellness Wednesday, which will be positive affirmations for the students, just again keeping with that uplifting spirit. And we've got the idea is the smiley fruit snacks, the little smiley treats. So we can hand those out as the kids leave on Wednesday, and they'll have that little smiley treat with that affirmation tag, just thinking positive thoughts. And then on Friday is our traditional FCCLA rep meeting, and we're going to try and tie a little bit of Valentine's into it too. Since we weren't able to do our painting night in the fall or the early winter, we are going to do a little crafting. We're going to try to be crafty and see what we can do with individual stations for the kids to do Valentine's Day crafts and maybe a little game or a bingo to get them in the spirit and ready for Valentine's Day. And then again, they should have a little to-go snack for them to take home with them. So we're trying the best that we can, keeping the positive spirits and just making sure that the club itself is still kicking and that the kids still remember that they're in this club. And the officers, they have struggled because everything is 10 times more difficult. And what we're used to doing, we have a couple more hurdles to jump through. So they're doing a really nice job, and both in FFA and FCCLA. So thank you.
Thank you guys for coming in. I appreciate it. I just want to say, not only the CTE group, but just the clubs and organizations that you guys put out for the kids is I wish I could articulate it in a way that really expresses how I feel about the clubs that you guys put on. It's more than just the activities that you do. You see the kids that are involved in those, and there's just the skills in both those, are the leadership, the communication, the confidence that it builds. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing in the clubs. I know it's been a disappointing year for many of our students in those clubs. I know in the Ernst household, my daughter's part of the FCCLA crew as well, and there's been disappointment in our own house. But we really do appreciate everything that you guys are doing with the clubs and activities to try to make the best of what we're dealing with this year. So thank you guys, and thank you guys for coming in and presenting. I don't know if you guys had any questions or no? Okay.
No, I just want to, ditto how valuable you guys as clubs are. I mean, I went through the FFA when I was in high school, and the skills that you learn. I guess this is the year the skill of perseverance will be exercised as much as anything, and we'll get back to normal again, and we'll start having some fun. But till then, we'll just keep motoring on. Yeah, thanks for coming in again. If you guys want to stay with the meeting, you can. But if you guys got to get going, you can do that too. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the next item of business then is the review of COVID-19 response.
Okay, so we have a couple things that we're just wanted to share kind of decisions that have been made, just the items that have been impacted by the pandemic that continue to be impacted. I'll speak on. I'll jump to youth sports and then I'll pass it over to Mr. Gillis. But youth sports, just made a decision where we really are looking to continue to move forward and lessen the restrictions that we have in the building. So the decisions with youth sports are going to impact even the clubs that are in front of us today. We talked about, our numbers have been really, really good. Like they continue to be. We haven't been dealing, knock on wood, we haven't been dealing with what we were dealing with prior to Thanksgiving and, kind of leading into Christmas. So we have had a couple of cases here and there, but things have been, like I said, really going really well for us. And we haven't, the sub situation and the exclusion of kids have been, excluding kids from the building has been way down. So we're looking to open things up little by little. So with youth sports, we met today as an admin team. We talked about allowing some of I put the revised youth sports guidelines that we have in right after the vendor payments. And you can see some of the differences that we have in there. We're going to cohort kids. We're going to allow the practices to go on with a fewer restrictions and even have some competitions approved and allowed in there. So youth basketball and youth wrestling will hopefully be, like I said, the restrictions are a little bit less than what we had originally had. Our numbers are continuing to stay low, so we felt like we could open that up a little bit. And we want to do the same thing with some of the internal clubs and activities that we have in the district. So I put those in there just for you guys to take a look through. And this is the revised copy, so you'll be able to see the changes that we made in there. We did, unfortunately, we had to talk through prom. Before we go to prom, I just want to speak on Spirit Week was last week. And it was quite a bit different than what we've had in the past, but Mr. Crawford, a huge thank you to Mr. Crawford and all the time and energy that he put in to make it a successful year and have some opportunities for the kids that were, semi back to normal. So I'll let Mr. Gillis kind of speak to some of the activities and what we did during Spirit Week.
So for Spirit Week, we typically have different activities during the week, all kinds of in-person things. We had to trim way back on that. We couldn't do like the volleyball during wrap every hour, things like that at the end of the day. We did have some trivia contests and classroom things like that. And then we finished up the week with the 9-12 assembly in the gym. Like we typically do, we basically quartered the gym and had one class, 9 through 12 in each quarter, separated at a mask and all that stuff. We got our coaches up there to talk like they do, and there was a few games that we did. Like we tried to keep it as much normalcy as we can within reason. So it was a good week. People participated well to the best of their ability, and students were great in the assembly this time. It was a fun week.
Yeah. And thank you to all the kids and the teaching staff, all of the staff that helped. We wouldn't be able to do it without the kids following directions and doing what we need them to do, and then the teachers doing what they need to do as well to make sure kids were separated and everybody had masks on. And but like I said, a huge thank you to Mr. Crawford for all the time and energy that he put into it as well. Then I also wanted to do just kind of update on prom. We just due to what it is and the dance and the parameters that the precautions that we have to have in place, we just didn't feel like we were able to put something together that was something like prom. So unfortunately, we've canceled prom for this year. And then lastly, just wanted to talk through graduation. So we made some changes to graduation. I'm very hopeful with where we're at this year compared to what we were dealing with last year, and I think we're going to be able to put on a nice graduation this year for the kids and the parents. But we do have some things in place that are, if we had to put it in place right now today, these are the precautionary measures that we would have in place. But I'm hopeful and confident that by the time May gets here, that it'll be that we'll be able to even loosen up a little more even by May. So our thought was that we'd put the restrictions in place now. It might be a little bit disappointing for seniors and parents now, give them some processing time, and then hopefully be able to deliver some good news in May rather than good news now and bad news in May. But I'll let Mr. Gill speak to kind of some of the changes that we've put in place for the graduation for this year.
Sure. Graduation and small town traditions are always hard when there's change, and we know that. I got several emails reminding me of that. And we've got a situation where we're moving the graduation to Friday evening, the 21st of May. Some families are concerned about, well, it worked outside. Well, yeah, but remember that was midsummer and beautiful weather, and we got lucky. And this is May, and we might not get lucky. So we're tentatively planning to hold the ceremony in the gym as normal, with spectators of 4 per family for now. We're hoping we can loosen that up as we move forward with the COVID stuff. Some of the reasons we're doing that seemed to be the biggest concern that I received, and there were a few. One is we can reduce significantly our amount of exposure time between practice and holding the ceremony, whereas in tradition we would practice on Friday. You go through the weekend and graduate on Sunday. Well, what if we have an exposure on Friday and half the class can't attend on Sunday? That would be a pretty traumatic event for a lot of families. So we want to make sure we're doing that. Staffing is always hard on Sundays, and then we're not sure yet. We're pretty certain that awards night is going to again be recorded this year like we did last year, just because that would bring in so many people from the outside the community and potentially expose our kids to other COVID things. So that will probably be, we're planning for a virtual like we did last year, where Mrs. Kaler and I and Mrs. Hughes read through the names and the awards they got, and there'll be a prepared slideshow and a video with the kids and what they got. We're going to try to keep it as normal as we can for the students. One other thing I forgot, by doing graduation on Friday, it gives the opportunity to have the cap and the gown, the diploma available at the graduate party, for display. Families like to do that as well. Can you think of anything else, Mr. Hicks, that I missed?
No, I think that's it. I think that's good, yeah.
Is this the plan to continue like this, or is it just because of COVID?
Moving it to Friday like that, we'll kind of see how it'll go. We'll have a better read on that. It would, then we can move forward from there. It does make a lot of sense shortening up the practice to the graduation time, and then families can have the entire weekend to plan parties when it fits best. And we have graduation early enough in the evening on Friday, so they can even potentially have a Friday evening graduation party.
Well, that's what I heard for concern. It's like we already have something booked for Friday night.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's been the COVID theme for the entire school year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so in the future, I hope that we can move forward with Friday night.
Yeah.
And similar to last year, where we recognize this, the decisions that we're making aren't ideal for everyone. And I apologize for the inconvenience for many of the families. I know we've received some frustrating emails. We've also received some that have been excited about the change. So I think with every decision, it seems like there's some that are happy and there's some that aren't. So, but I just want to, just reiterate with many, I've said this before, but it really is true. Like these decisions aren't just flippantly made. Let's go for Friday this year. Let's try it out. It has been. They are thought through, and one of the two big things, main variables, Mr. Gillis hit. The Sunday staffing, and then be able to get staff in there and clean it, and then the contact tracing timeline, a Sunday versus a Friday. So it just made more sense to move it to a Friday. And again, I know it unfortunately some have had plans, and it does impact that, and I apologize for that. We're just doing the best that we can. I'm just really right now, I'm thrilled that we're in a place, in a totally different place than where we were last year, where we're like, is this even going to happen? They kept putting more restrictions and things on us, and we weren't sure if we were going to be able to even make it happen. Like I said, right now, if things keep going the way they're going, right now I'm very confident we're going to have a great ceremony. It's going to be indoors, and we'll be able to have, a few more people, hopefully. And we talked about, the band. Do we record something? Do we not? So some of the logistics aren't worked out yet as far as what the ceremony itself is going to look like. But we want to try to make it as normal as possible, like we have in the past. So that's our hope. Any other questions as far as the...
Josh, have the youth sports guidelines been presented, or have you let this out already, or no?
No. We just did them today. We finalized them today. Mr. Rosine's going to be emailing the coaches. I don't know if he did tonight or if he is tomorrow, but he's going to be letting the head coaches know, and then filter the communication down to the youth coaches.
I think that we're going to have some exciting coaches and some exciting youth when they get to see that these have opened up a little bit.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's our hope, and internally too, with some of the stuff that we're doing with, like I said, hopefully with the clubs and activities, we'll be able to continue opening up, and it won't compromise, what we're doing here. It's...
Any other questions?
Not so much a question, just a comment. I think the communications, number one, the communications that go out are very factual, but we are in a pretty emotional state right now with most people being in their temporary positions for a year. So changing some tradition in the middle of a pandemic without a why made this seem like a very harsh communication. At least if you follow the social media and everything, like even, as a husband who's like, why did this happen? I don't know why. I can't answer the why. The communication doesn't explain the why. And I think to combat an emotional response, we have to maybe add some of the why in what we're communicating. I can read between the lines, but I don't know that everybody else can. I think it might just make us seem a little bit softer when we set out some of these new guidelines.
Sure.
Just some thoughts after watching it all unravel on social media and, asking for a new school board and people saying they're running for the school board. I think it didn't come out well, even though it was going to be controversial anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I would echo that as a parent of a senior talking to other parents. It seems like people, once we heard why, it was easier to accept. And I think that, the detail, some of what Mr. Gillis just said, would probably diffuse a lot of the bad feelings that people are having about that change, especially the Friday night. I know one of the things that comes up for some families that I haven't heard discussed at all is if you're going to do a Friday night, we have to get relatives here in the evening, which is a little tougher work for school night, especially like our daughter's going to have to travel to get home for after classes to get home. So it was just a little input, I guess.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that the main reason why a lot of, once, for me, I was kind of bummed out about it as a parent.
Say that again?
For me personally, I was a little disappointed and it was upsetting. But I also always try to understand that there's a reason for these things happening. But when I started to hear some of the reasons with someone who talked to Mr. Gillis and that, I was like, okay, now I can accept this and feel a little better about it. So
Sure.
I would agree with what she's saying.
Appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
What would make the change between Plan A and Plan B happen on graduation? Plan B is the outside, and I'm just thinking of family for the time change there, because if it's A, it's at 6 o'clock, if it's B, it's at 5 o'clock.
We were thinking because of lights on the field.
Right. I was just thinking, I wonder if parents were having parties that night that were planned, if you set both of them at the same time, no matter what happens, it'll always be the same time. I don't know if that would affect families at all, if that's possible, or if that would help some parents if they're trying to plan something.
I don't know anybody who has a party on Friday night for graduation. I haven't heard of any. Have you?
Okay.
Who's going to? Maybe there's a couple, I don't know. But I know for us, one of our challenges is you have relatives that work until 5:30 or at school until 5:30 and they've got an hour drive or something.
So the travel would be better for 6 o'clock.
Later is better. But
Right.
also, if we're going to be outside, the other thought that came through my mind, because I take a lot of pictures, is no light for pictures.
Yeah.
If it's dark rather than on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. And if we moved to Plan B, it'd be because if we had to. There's been different communication from the different, the county, the CDC, the DHS as far as indoors versus outdoors, and like I said, if everything keeps going the way it's going right now, it'll be indoors at the 6 o'clock. Plan A is what we're hoping.
One more question. Do the seniors have any say in this? Like, do they have a preference? I mean, this is their graduation. I'm just wondering.
I don't know that we pulled them simply because we have so many constrictions and we have to work with them. It's kind of like sometimes you don't pull if you aren't going to honor, what you collect.
Yes.
And sometimes people mistakenly believe that just because they've input, that's what it's going to be. So given the restrictions that we're working with right now, there wasn't the senior class poll.
Yeah. I'm just thinking in future years, there's some people who really enjoyed the outdoor graduation.
Yeah, and the process to get to the decision that we made it really didn't have to do with what we wanted, and it really doesn't have anything to do with what the seniors want, unfortunately, as much as I wish it would or could. But when we talked through it, we just said, well, what would make the most sense as far as the ability to us have the most normal possible graduation that we could have without being compromised, and that was really it. It wasn't, we preferred on Friday or Sunday. I mean, when we talked through it as a minute, it really was a horse apiece. Like we don't have a preference between a Friday or a Sunday. It was just, how many staff do we have? Are we able to clean it and get everything ready? If something happens where there's contact tracing, are we going to be able to make it happen on a Sunday versus a Friday? And just talking through those pieces, it really didn't have anything to do with, what anybody wanted. And, I apologize if it didn't, the emotional piece, I definitely get what both of you guys are saying, and I respect that and appreciate you guys sharing it. But just how we got to the answer, or how we got to the decision, I guess I should say, was just what are the best odds of us, making sure that Plan A happens, and that's how we got there. So.
And if I could just add to, I didn't see what was posted online, although I did hear it through my wife, and I thought it's just for our community, when somebody says something publicly that damages somebody else's what they're trying to do, unfortunately, I think that the individuals that were involved in it just forgot to be nice at the time, but it has an effect. It has an effect on the people that are trying to make these decisions, our administration team. It has effect, on our school district, and it's unfortunate. And I don't know how to rid ourselves of that. I guess all we do is try to do the best thing that we can. But I guess we just keep trying to do the best that we can, and hopefully eventually everybody catches on that we are trying to make life as good as we can for our cohorts. So trying to inject a little bit of goodwill in the community, I guess. I just wanted to throw that out. So
thanks, Ray.
Anything else on the subject of the graduation? Thanks you guys for going through and getting it set up the way that we have. It's nice to see that we're going towards normal again. So the next item of business then is the introduction of the 2021 valedictorian and salutatorians.
Okay, so this year we have this year's valedictorian is Shane Larson. Shane is the son of Kyle and Shannon. He's got a GPA of 4.096, and I would say even more impressive than that is just his character. While he's been here, he's just a really impressive kid. He's been involved in a lot of stuff, and I'll let him speak to that as far as all of what he's been involved in. But just a really nice kid, and just a high level of integrity and high level of character. He's someone that you would hope would be in that valedictorian spot. So congratulations, Shane. Would you like to share kind of future plans and?
Sure. So I plan to attend the UW-Platteville for an engineering degree. I haven't really narrowed down to a specific one yet, but I'm very excited to be going there. So. And as far as my high school career, I have participated in pretty much everything I could, as far as art club, FFA, Spanish club, wrestling, cross country, trap shooting, and STS, Student Council, NHS. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. We wish you the best of luck, and I mean that. I really, really, your character speaks to you guys as a parents and what you guys. He really has done a nice job, and we wish you the best of luck and congratulations.
Thank you.
And then our salutatorian, Kira Pickard, she's going to be joining us next month. We had to reschedule in one of the girls' basketball games, so we had her slotted to come in with Shane and be acknowledged, but then we rescheduled one of the basketball games for this evening, so she's going to be joining us next month.
Very good, and congratulations to Mom as well. So the next item of business is the review of the academic achievement gap reduction.
Okay, so AGR, formerly known as SAGE, this is the printout that's not in the document, the large pamphlet. Yep, I'm going to have Mr. Peterson share on this document.
So as you might recall, so after the end of the first semester and the end of the second semester, we review our achievement gap reduction data. So we have a 5-year plan, and we're actually in our 5th year of the plan. So this is written, the plan goals were written 5 years ago. But if you recall, the AGR is the old SAGE program, which is the grant program for schools like ours that has allowed us to have reduced class sizes. It's been around for quite some time. So anyway, when we submitted our plan, we were required to have a reading and a math goal for each of the grades that takes part in AGR. So for that, it's our kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade. The format of this report, you're probably used to me giving you these now. I think you're getting, probably familiar with them. The format looks different. It's a little bit different form this year, so that's why it's on kind of the giant paper and it's a little more hard to read. The way I had it, could kind of arrange it before, I had all the data on one little spot here. But so you'll notice, as you're paging through it right now, so it's got each grade level listed. So kindergarten, you can see the reading data and the math data. So there's the baseline performance is the 3rd column from the left that shows, so this is where students were when they came in the fall and took their STAR tests or their STAR early literacy tests for the youngest grades. And then if you skip over to the 3rd column from the right, where it says fall semester progress toward the objective, that is the January STAR test that they took. So you can see the change from fall to January, September to January. And remember that, so this is giving what percentage of students met the benchmark. And remember the benchmark changes from fall to, not only, what it means to be at benchmark changes from September to January, where it expects students to be. The other thing that's remarkable about the report this year, or about this document, on the right-hand side, up and down, ended up being a big text field. But we were asked to write a response to COVID-19. In other words, describe your school's overall experience with the COVID-19 crisis and how it affected your school this year. And so we put together a narrative just sort of explaining, much of what we've heard. And I feel like we've been talking about COVID way too much tonight. But anyway, just, to outline what we tried to do when we wrote it is to outline, the impact of last spring, the disruption to learning. And it was interesting, this fall to see where students would come in, in September testing compared to prior years. And I think we saw probably a bigger impact, especially on the youngest grades, kindergarten and 1st grade, as you might expect. But anyway, if you, and we're not going to sit and read it out loud or anything like that, but the response, the narrative on the right-hand side, just, talks briefly about last spring and some of the inconsistency with the sudden change. And then it talks about how this year we've been fortunate enough to be in person, except for the 2.5-week period. Definitely we're more prepared with technology and with technology platforms and with teachers being much more prepared for distance learning. So when we did have to close down, it was more successful. Still were inconsistencies there due to other factors, some small number of challenges with internet access, different levels of engagement due to family support and factors outside of school as well. There were challenges for some kids. talks a little bit also about, the extended absences we've had. Obviously, a lot of students have been excluded. So when a student misses school for, 14 days or now 10 days, certainly that has an impact. And our students and our staff have done a great job of helping kids stay caught up and make up their work, but it still, certainly has an impact on everybody. Those extra things and the extra stress and, I guess, mental health challenges for some students and how it impacts everyone, including staff. Some challenges with staffing and substituting. Instructional time actually impacted slightly with some of the changes in the schedule and disinfecting and transitioning differently, and challenges with teaching techniques. Honestly, you can't be as flexible and do some group work as that you might do in a different way other years. Intervention time, students not mixing among the grade levels as much to be able to travel into different rooms to get interventions. So all those things, as we started thinking about it, there's a lot of hurdles that everyone's been working hard to overcome. However, then we can say that that's been a real challenge. But despite all that and all the obstacles, we still feel fortunate that we've been able to be in person. And to be in person with all those challenges or the modifications, it's still been of greater benefit academically and as far as socially, emotionally, than it would be as if we feel like we were in a virtual or a distance learning situation. So, we're grateful that we've been able to remain in person. And also, going forward, that many of the things that we've adjusted or changed or some of the innovations we've made will be things that we reflect on and keep going forward. Positive things, whether it be instructional approaches or in technology use or even simple things like the way we bring kids out to the buses. There are things that we do differently that we realize, when this is over and we go back to quote unquote normal, we're going to keep doing it this way because we like it and it works better. So learning from some of those innovations as well. So there's that's the narrative part and the positive and negatives. And I'd say overall, when you look at the data, there's just kind of some inconsistency, and I think that kind of fits what kind of describes how the year has been, the inconsistency with the students in and out and some of the challenges we've had there. So you can, see the data for yourself as far as, reading is listed first and math listed second. Is there any questions about anything you see?
When's the next testing? When's the spring testing?
So they'll give more tests between them, but we'll do usually early May is when we'll do the final, the end of year, the spring assessment, or that we record and do this.
So you're feeling pretty good about the results, Chris?
I would say mixed. There's some really good growth, and there's some that's kind of has you questioning it. But then, it's interesting because in one grade, the same grade, same students, same teachers, and you see that, let's say, for example, in reading, there's not as much growth there, and then you look at the same kids, same teachers, and in math, there's huge growth. And so it's just kind of curious, and I think it shows to what we often see with data when we look at our small cohorts of kids, and it doesn't take few students doing differently to affect the overall percentage quite a bit when you're talking about a small group of kids. So yeah, overall there's a lot of positive things in here.
Not just through third grade, I thought it was more than that.
Say that again?
It's just up to third grade?
For the AGR for SAGE, yep, it's just up through third grade, yeah.
Okay. Any other comments?
Any other questions?
Questions? Sorry, Chris.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you. All right, then we'll move on to our next item of business, the review of the 2020-2021 January pupil count.
Okay, so the pupil count. So if you turn, it's a colored page that I have in your document or in your booklet. It's this one. It's got the table chart. So the pupil count we do in September, and then we do in January. We did the second Friday and the third Friday in September, and then the second Friday of January. They use this data for a lot of the budgeting, the financial pieces in the district. So right now our pupil count for January is 553. So that's not butts and seats. That's the DPI's formula. They factor how many kids, and then they do your open enrollment in, open enrollment out, have a couple factors, and then they produce that number. So if you just look at the sheet that I gave you guys, this is actual butts and seats of what kids were actually in the district. So we have in the bottom, that blue line, a total 577. So we're a little down from September. We were at 587, but our virtual numbers are down as well. We had 48 kids that were in virtual. Now we only have 30. So we had about 10 kids that went from virtual either to homeschool or back into the district. So overall, our numbers are a little bit down, which we expected them to be. And you can just kind of get the breakdown as far as how many total kids are here, how many are in virtual, then how many we have open and enrolled in, how many we have open and enrolled out, all those numbers in that blue tab or in that blue line. Any questions with the numbers?
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Ernst. Then we'll move on to the next item of business, which is the consideration or approval of staff and student-based coverings.
Okay, so I sent you guys a couple of emails while this was all kind of what we were looking at, what was going to happen with the mask mandate. The mask mandate that Governor Evers put out did get overturned, and then there was an immediate mask mandate that was followed up by the one that was overturned. So kind of right now the one that we're currently under goes to expire March 20th. And then I did say, in my email to you guys, as you guys are thinking about, what our options are. Well, let me back up. So we have a board policy that I put in here that's in place that will allow us to continue with masks if we so choose. And I encourage you to just kind of think about, the implications of, just saying a yes or a no. We have the county ordinance right now. The exclusion criteria doesn't change. So if we were to remove the masks, if the next one gets overturned, I think it would be pretty problematic for us. I think we would be sending a large number of kids home pretty quickly and a large number of staff home pretty quickly. So anyway, I linked the executive order, that 105, and then the emergency order number 1 in there, and then I also have the board policy that we have in place, that we put in place a couple months ago regarding the face covering. So just wanted to talk through with you guys. Right now we can keep doing what we're doing regardless of if there's an order in place, but just wanted to hear kind of what direction you guys were looking for the district to go. My recommendation is that we continue with masks, regardless of if an order is overturned or not. Like I said, just for the criteria alone would be a huge issue for us. I don't know. I don't think anybody can say whether or not the masks are working or not. All I can tell you is what we're doing is working, and we're doing a couple different things. Social distancing, yeah, we are doing the best we can, but if you're in the building, kids aren't staying 6 feet away, especially at the elementary. I mean, little kids are little kids. I have 4 of my own, so I'll be the first to tell you, that we do our best to keep them apart, but they're touching each other. I mean, that's just what kids do. They're little kids. But what we are doing is we're doing a really nice job with cleaning. The staff does a really nice job making sure things are clean in between class periods. The kids wash their hands more than any other year before and after lunch, which I just think is a good thing. I have 4 kids of my own. We all know where fingers go. And where hands are, so it's nice to have the teachers get them in there. They wash their hands, they go to lunch, then they're washing their hands before and after. So there's a lot more of that going on, and like I said, just a lot more cleaning, and we're just aware of it. I think in both buildings, staff and students, and overall we're doing a really nice job. So I think, and with that, we've been able to stay in person with the exception of 2 weeks, and currently we're in a really good place in the district where we're not sending kids home consistently, and we're keeping them in the building, in the seats, in front of teachers, which is what we want to do. And that's, we've talked about the social, emotional, mental health piece, and I think keeping kids in the building is the bottom line. And I do think the masks are, having an impact on, probably adults more than kids. I think it is hard, and no one likes wearing them. I'll be the first to tell you that I don't like wearing them. But I do think it might be it helping, but it might not. But my opinion is, why change what you're doing if what we're doing is working? So, go ahead, Greg.
So you mentioned just by having the kids wearing a mask, when we do have a case of COVID, by the kids wearing masks, that would give us the ability to reduce the number of kids we have to exclude, right?
Yeah, that's the most important piece when we're talking about whether or not, if it is overturned and we decide to get rid of masks. That's by far the most important piece. Right now, the criteria is if you're wearing appropriate PPE, if you have a mask on, it's that 15-minute is the threshold. If you don't have a mask on, it's immediate. As soon as you don't have a mask on, we have to follow the criteria for exclusion, and then staff and students would be sent home. And I think my guess is that we'd be shutting down fairly quickly, just not necessarily due to sicknesses, but just because of the amount of people that we'd be sending home. I think it'd start with students, and then pretty soon we'd have staff out, and we wouldn't have the coverage to sustain the exclusion criteria that was in place. If that changes, then it's a whole different conversation. But that's the number one variable for me and for us in our role here, is whether it's admin or at the board level.
Then I'd like to make a comment if I could too. Well, maybe I shouldn't. Very good. Thank you.
Does it change if they're outside for exclusion? Would they be able to take them off if they're out in the recess, but it's still the same if they're on the outside? Like if the mask mandate it gets overturned, is there a little more leniency outside with the exclusion?
Not the exclusion criteria, but they say that it's better outside, like there's less likely,
Right.
but we're just talking about the exclusion criteria, so.
That's not going to change.
Yeah.
Just what we do now at the elementary school, when they are outside, if they are spread out more than 6 feet, they can take their masks down at recess.
Okay.
If they're playing, where they get in closer proximity, then they need to have their masks on.
Yeah, because the 6 feet, and that's indoors or outdoors, so it's the same. If it's 6 feet and the mask's off, then according to the criteria, you're fine. But indoors is hard to keep that 6 foot proximity.
Then you would have to consider standing in line for the bus. If they're standing there in line for the bus and nobody's wearing masks, and all of a sudden we exclude a whole row of kids.
Yeah.
Right.
I think too, it impacts staffing a lot too, because we've had situations in the fall and throughout the year where we have a positive case, whether it's a student or a staff, and you think of a staff member, we have the kids cohorted. There's only there 15 kids or there 25 kids in their room, and that teacher probably comes within 6 feet of every student in the room at some point in the day for a quick interaction or answer a question or help out. If nobody had masks on, that would wipe out the whole room and the staff member. Whereas 15 minutes is a pretty long time, so you can say, well, yeah, I helped these students throughout the day for a minute apiece, but we had our masks on. Then we're allowed to keep that staff member. Or a staff member gets excluded, and they have a conversation with their 2 people in their department for 5 minutes, and if they talk and they have their masks on, they're fine. But now if none of them had masks on, they'd wipe out the whole department. So that's kind of the examples, I guess, that makes it real too.
I guess I can't help myself. So I haven't had in our house a cold or a flu or anything since we started this thing. So
Yeah.
I just want to say I think something's working here.
Yeah.
With everything.
Everything.
People
Yeah.
concerned.
So. All right. Does anybody have anything else they want to add to the mask mandate conversation?
No, so it sounds like if the exclusion criteria changes or loosens up, then we would be looking at reducing the mask. Is that kind of where we're going?
I think that just changes the conversation at least, yeah. Because right now it's not even, the conversation isn't whether or not you feel like the mask works or doesn't work. It's just the criteria in place and how much it would compromise the district based on the exclusion criteria. That if the masks, went away, the position that we'd be in, I think it'd compromise the district pretty quick. So if the criteria change, the county criteria change, and the mask mandate was overturned, then the conversation would be, I think, do we look at continuing with the masks? Do we not? And then it's that conversation.
I would like when it gets to that point to ask staff what they feel too. I mean, if they don't feel comfortable with it, I mean, I don't deal with it every day. I don't have to do it, but I don't know. It'd be a thing I think we should look into. Maybe not pull them, but just see what thoughts are.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think the likelihood, though, of them actually changing the criterion in which people are excluded, I don't think that's going to change. The disease is still going to have its, pathology or whatever it would be called, but I guess the conversation would be sparked by the mask mandate going away.
I think what you're starting to see in the state are counties that are now, they have the authority to issue orders and then order mask mandates. That's what you're seeing, few are doing. Polk County hasn't said that they'd be doing that. They haven't, to my knowledge, they haven't talked through that process. They may have, but it hasn't been communicated to me. So I don't see the criteria, changing at this point anyway. But I also know not every district is in the same place that we are. I do feel like we've been, very lucky throughout this whole process, and so for whatever reason, it's going. We're considering what we're dealing with. It's been a good year. Consider what many districts are now just entertaining the conversation of coming back in person. That'd be a long stretch to be virtual or remote. So just to be clear, everybody's on the same page. We continue with using our own board policy if it is overturned. Okay. And then if things change, obviously we'd bring it back to the board, and if we had to have a special meeting to talk through that, I'd be communicating with you guys through email, and then we could issue either wait till the following board meeting or have a special board meeting and talk through the direction that we wanted to go. Sound good?
Do we need official approval?
We don't. We have the policy that was in place, and it was just, I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, I've kind of used the term, it feels like you're in a divorce marriage right now between what's being communicated within the CDC, the DHS, and then the different I wasn't sure if the mask mandate was going to be, if the order was going to be overturned. If it wasn't, then and it ended up obviously being overturned, and then a new one was issued. So
All right, very good. All right, then the next item of business is the approval of our resignations.
Okay, so we have one resignation. Mrs. Strelzik, she was unfortunately not able to be here tonight. She had planned on coming, but couldn't make it. So she has decided to leave the education profession and stay at home. She's accepted another a child care position, and she's able to stay home with her new little one. So I wish her the best of luck, and like I told her, I don't think she'll regret that decision. But she did say that she plans on still coaching volleyball and being connected in the district. So this is just a resignation of her teaching position.
Very good. Then I will entertain a motion. I move to approve the resignation.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the resignation of Alicia Strelzik. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes with many thanks for the years she has donated to our district. Next item of business is our approval of hires.
So the interview committee selected for the physical education vacancy that Mrs. Strelzik is leaving, the Gage Stabenow for that position.
Move to approve the new hire.
Start right away?
What's that?
Start like Monday?
Yep. He'll starting this week actually. Yep.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded to approve our new hire. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Our next item of business is the superintendent notes. Mr. Ernst.
Okay, I don't have anything that we haven't talked about. That COVID response has kind of filled that area, so I don't have anything more to say.
Okay. Well, with that being said, then we're going to move into our contemplated closed session. In accordance to WSS 19.85, paragraph 1C, considering employment, compensation, or performance data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. In accordance to WSS 19.85 paragraph 1F concerning financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, if discussed in public, would likely have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data or involved in such problems or investigations. Tonight we're going to talk about reviewing of employee performance and review of a notice of claim. So thank you everybody for coming in.
What are you saying?
I saw her back there looking at us.
I'm bringing mine next time.
They found the Lego package.
No, I didn't see it.
Thanks, Marcy.
Have a good evening. Okay, so Mrs. Hunter is going to be. Oh, no! Did you poll everybody already or no?
I haven't yet. No.
Okay.
So now I'll pull the board. Christine?
Yep.
Ryan?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Skip?
Yep.
And Nettie?
Yes.
We are in closed session. All
We
right,
don't have to vote on anything coming back in, right?
No, we'll take no action. So I'll entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn. Or do we need food or what are you looking for?
Oh, wait, yeah, future agenda items. Anybody have anything they want to put on the future agenda?
Are we back in open?
Yeah.
Nope, I've moved to adjourn.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?